want to start with my favorite thing of 2008, and there turns out there were a lot.
Yeah, that's a great year.
But I have to start with the Batman, The Dark Knight specifically. What is still, I loved it at the time, and the honeymoon never ended for me. It's actually still my favorite movie.
It's one
I
of
love
the
this movie.
rare fraternity of motion pictures where the sequel is better than the original, and the original was excellent. Batman Begins is an awesome movie, and The Dark Knight improves on it in almost every possible way.
Well, it's nice because now you don't have that origin story weight on you. Because like if they're going to say we're going to reboot Batman, that's an hour and a half, 90 minutes of back in time and dealing with him like being like, I'm going to be Batman. But now he's just Batman and it's all good.
Right from the early scene where it's like, okay, we're establishing that Batman's been out for, been on patrol for a year or two, and then we get the guys in the parking garage. And
I'm not wearing hockey pants.
And then he just does that totally baller, just hops off of the ledge
parking garage
and lands on the van. Like, yes.
Yep.
Yes,
they resist the temptation to deliver the super boss. There's no physical opponent who can meet Batman face to face in this movie. Instead, it's somebody who's entirely different than him that comes at him from angles that are more painful than just getting punched in the face. And I really love that about
You are, of course, referring to Heath Ledger's Joker performance, which
absolutely makes the movie, right? Everyone in the movie is really, really good. The cast is great, but it is all about that performance. The thing about Heath Ledger is he absolutely disappears into the role. Actually, this is a weird comparison, but I just rewatched Tropic Thunder, and you don't see Robert Downey Jr. there. Yeah. And Heath Ledger, I think you have to look back at the message boards of people howling and screaming over that casting.
Beforehand, it was like Michael Keaton being cast as Batman in the Tim Burton movie. It was just like, what? Brokeback Mountain guy? We can't do that.
Yeah. And again, Jack Nicholson had kind of inhabited this role in the Burton Batman. He'd become sort of synonymous with it, and so Heath Ledger had to overcome that baggage. And not only overcome it, he knocked it out of the park. I mean, it is one of the great performances in popular culture history. So on top of that, you have Aaron Eckhart, who I think honestly is kind of underrated in this movie. He's really, really good in that wonderful scene with him and the Joker.
In the
hospital. Now we're talking. Had you so good.
Yeah, so of course Ledger did win posthumously. He passed away, of course, after the filming had been completed, but before the movie had come out. So he tragically passed away. He did win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, completely deservingly so. It's a shame he wasn't alive to accept it himself. His wife, Michelle Williams, accepted it on his behalf. The movie grossed $1 billion worldwide.
It's a lot of bat bucks.
The 24th highest grossing movie ever when adjusted for inflation. And I seem to recall at the time it was very closely pacing behind Titanic. For a while it was on a trajectory.
They were thinking that it was going to be the next big thing.
As I recall, you couldn't buy a ticket to see it for at least the first week or two. It was that hard.
Yeah, unless you had bought them well in advance, you were kind of SOL.
Fun fact about this movie, the handy cam scenes where the Joker is intimidating.
Yeah, like Anthony Michael Hall and all those.
So Heath Ledger directed those himself.
I did not know that.
By directed, do you mean he took Anthony Michael Hall, hung him upside down in a meat locker, and then went and got a Sony Handycam? And was we're going to have some fun.
Yes. Jared, what else do we want to say about this just incredible movie? I mean, besides the fact that it's the best Batman, I don't think there's any argument that it's the best Batman to ever live-action Batman on the screen.
Yeah, it simply knocked it out of the park. This is a psychological movie that somehow manages to come off unpretentious. I've never been more impressed by a superhero movie. I think this is kind of the gold standard that everybody still shoots for. It handles action in a way that seems realistic. It's not, but it kind of feels grounded. It fools you. This movie's very good at fooling you. It's very good at subverting expectations. There's no real kind of epic final battle. It sort of comes down. Ultimately, the heroes of the movie are the population of Gotham, the spirit that Batman believes in. It's just a wonderful conceit, and they pull it off. It's just about the perfect movie.
I love, my favorite thing about The Dark Knight is that I think Christopher Nolan, this is paraphrasing, but his quote is that he wanted Joker to just be a force of nature. Yeah. And they don't get bogged down in an origin story. It's not, here's where this guy comes from, and here's where, he just shows up like a
custom suit, no labels.
Yeah. Just to ruin Batman's day. And then they don't waste, that's part of the genius of that movie is that this is hot on the heels of movies like, Spider-Man and other movies where they spend, 20, 30, 40 minutes explaining where these dudes come from. It's like, you don't need that. Like, just let them come in and be a force of nature.
It's that whole thing where he's like, look what I did with a few drums of gasoline and a couple of guns. And it's like, gas is cheap, and that's really all I need.
And what was extra great about that performance and just everything about the Joker in that movie is, remember the glee that you freaked out with at the end of Batman Begins when the Joker was teased? Like, we're getting the Joker the next movie.
I was super worried about that, actually. I saw that, and I was like, oh, that's blatant pandering. That's so dumb. And then, like, throughout all of the lead up to it, like when they were in production and like stuff was getting leaked, like I remember a YouTube video of like his tractor trailer. This is like slaughter is the best medicine going by, and I was like, oh my god, this looks actually really cool. And then they ran those really weird like viral marketing.
That's the next thing, the last thing I wanted to bring up.
These huge scavenger hunts, which were super cool. It's like, the Joker's assembling like a team of ragtag criminals. So it's like, we hid a phone and a cake at this bakery. First person there to find it wins a prize, and it turned out to be like tickets to the movie or something. But it was awesome. Because I was living in Boston at the time, and like I'd be walking through the Boston Common, which is this huge open park, and all of a sudden there would just be like a gaggle of like kind of sweaty, heavier dudes, but like with the grease paint and the green hair and the Glasgow smile on, just being like, hey man, what's so serious? And it was like 50, 100, 200 of them, and it was like, where are you people all going? And it really kind of burned that like, oh man, this could be a new direction for this, and I really like it a lot.
Yeah, just a brilliant, brilliant film. Stay tuned for our next episode where I could do that entire movie by myself, one man show.
Please do that.
Ryan McCaffrey edition.